Everyone. So before we get into this episode, we're starting a little bit of a mini series, you can say, where I'm asking ChatGPT some uncomfortable questions about me, about relationships, about my life, about literally anything. So yeah, do let me know what you think about the questions, some of the answers. Do let me know what you think about the mini series as well that we have going on. And yeah, hope you enjoy the episode. First question is, are you really a man? I think 75% yes. Maybe the roles haven't been given to me in which I should, or the opportunity hasn't come up for me to behave in those ways. I think as well another part of it is to take risks, is to take opportunities, is to find opportunities and to create opportunities. He's trying to protect himself, the version that never felt that he was being able to be heard, or he was able to find love or be in love, trying to protect the feelings or the past traumas that made him feel like he's not worthy of love. It's very childlike energy, like very bubbly, happy. That's how I know when I love someone. And what he's also trying to protect is that energy. Is when that goes away, that means love is out the door. Love is not there. The right person will make you feel like you're enough, even though you might not feel like it, or even though others might not see you as enough. Hey everyone, welcome to an episode on our podcast Koon Rijjeil. So today we're doing things a little bit differently. So I normally, like I think a lot of us, go to ChatGPT and ask questions and maybe try to understand a little bit more about ourselves. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to ask ChatGPT some very uncomfortable questions, or ask it to ask me some uncomfortable questions about me in general, about what it means to be a man and a lot of other different contexts. Because I think, ChatGPT always has those really interesting questions that sometimes maybe we're too afraid to ask ourselves or never think about. So yeah, super excited to do this one, to be honest. It was, sort of one of those episodes where I wasn't very sure, if it's something that, I would get really, deep questions or good questions, but I was always, like a lot of us, surprised by ChatGPT and what it can possibly do. So the first question is, are you really a man? That's tough. Look, I think there are things that I think let's first start by defining what is a man. I think, as I always say, a man is, somebody who is a provider, somebody who is a leader, somebody who is the backbone, or بالعربي بنقول السند. حدا who, has a moral compass, has a sense of right and wrong in life. Somebody who is accountable, somebody who بتحس انه they're like a safe space. There's people who you can speak to, people who you can trust, and people who will let you be vulnerable with them, and they will obviously be vulnerable with you. I think from that perspective, I think 75% yes. I think there's a lot of times where we talk about كلمة السند. I don't know if I am that صراحة, maybe yet in my life. Maybe the roles haven't been given to me in which I should, or the opportunity hasn't come up for me to behave in those ways. But I think maybe that's something that I've been thinking about a lot in my life in the past few months, of like, okay, I'm doing this podcast, I talk about masculinity and mental health and شو يعني تكون رجال, بس انه you need to also live up to it. I think as well another part of it is to take risks, is to take opportunities, is to find opportunities and to create opportunities. I think that's something that I've done but maybe not followed through with, which I think is something that, something that, I know I need to work on. I think just in general, I think just being, how do you say, a little bit maybe more courageous or a little bit more adventurous. I think that's something that I haven't done. But yeah, definitely, I think everything else, I kind of fit at least what it means for me to be a man, which is, to be loving, kind, caring, giving, honest, vulnerable. Maybe not all the time, but I try my best to be. Yeah. I think as well, when it comes to having like a moral compass, I think I have one, or actually I know that I have one. I think it's gotten better with time. I think أكتر يعني قد ما بتعيش قصص وتجربة وهيك الواحد they kind of know or sort of have a thought process now. And I think, growing up, I didn't really have one. I was just living life and seeing where it takes me. So I think it's one of those things where, I'm happy that it developed with time because I kind of needed that that guidance or that moral compass. All right, next question. What version of me shows up in love, and what is he trying to protect? Okay, wow. Okay. I think the one that comes up is one that is extremely giving, one that is extremely caring, but also one that is maybe too particular. Maybe take things, as very black and white kind of situation. So like, but in general, that's how I think. I always think usually black and white. I don't think gray zone. So I think in a lot of relationships that I've ever been in or things, I always take it a bit too seriously, which is, I think, maybe part of my coping mechanism of, you need to protect what you have. You need to give it everything that you have. So I think it kind of goes part and parcel with to be very giving, to be very caring. What he's trying to protect is himself. He's trying to protect himself from the version that never felt that he was being able to be heard, or he was able to find love or be in love. Trying to protect the feelings or the past traumas that maybe made him feel like he's not worthy of love or things like these. I also think that, definitely I think, I just become like a kid, like a child, but not like a very childlike energy, like very bubbly, happy. That's how I know when I love someone. And what he's also trying to protect is that energy. Is when that goes away, that means love is out the door. Love is not there. It means you cannot be yourself. You cannot be الشخص اللي انت بدك تكون. Which to me is extremely important these days. To just be my complete natural self, whimsical, don't really care, just do whatever I think is right for me in whatever I think or whatever way I want to live my life. But yeah, that was a really good question, to be honest. Never really thought about it as in depth as this, to be fair. But yeah. All right. What makes me feel safe in relationships, and do I offer the same safety? Oof. Wow. I think I kind of said it in the last question, but I think just being able to completely be very honest with my partner and to be also open and honest with myself. So knowing that whoever it is that I'm with will listen to me 100% and let me say what I need to say and get it off of my chest and hold that safe space for me to just be completely vulnerable and not be afraid of saying what's on my mind or saying the truth or saying how I truly feel about things. Because I think a lot of times maybe some of it is self-inflicted, some of it is situation inflicted, but I've kind of shied away from doing this. It was very much a case of خلاص, keep what you say to yourself because you don't want to hurt anyone. And that's also how I am as a person in general. I don't like to hurt people. I don't like to make things bad or uncomfortable or whatever. It's always, a thing of do the right thing. My therapist would say people pleaser or the good guy, which is kind of the hat I put on a lot of the times in my life. And do I offer the same safety? I would like to think so. But no, look, I think I do. I think the only thing with me is that there are moments where I hold that space, but sometimes I don't let things sit. I have to sort of act on things. So if somebody tells me something about the way that they feel, I would have to kind of respond and not let it be like, hey, like, let me just speak my mind and not talk about it. Sometimes I talk about it because that's also how I am. But I like to give my opinions on things, which as well is partially how I am in relationships, right? So I'm extremely opinionated on a lot of things, which also I think is maybe my way of feeling safe, of feeling like I have a space in which I can speak my mind and not be afraid of, saying exactly what I think. And of course, this goes both ways. I always encourage it in relationships. I always encourage it with, the person that I'm speaking to, because to me, that's super important. If you feel like you can't talk to somebody, you can't be honest, then what's the point? And that's the sort of safety. It's a safety in which you can feel like, hey, my opinion matters. Hey, what I'm thinking is valuable. It's not a joke. It's not, it's something that I didn't feel for a large part of my life. For putting aside relationships, just life in general, I don't think I felt that a lot of times. So sometimes I just keep things to myself because, someone might disagree. Somebody might, someone might not think the same way as I do. So therefore, it might create some sort of bad chemistry, right? But this is something that I've learned the hard way, that you should speak your mind, because if you don't, you're kind of wasting your time and that other person's time. So what does it mean to be emotionally available as a man? I think being emotionally available is not just, okay, what I think of it is, it's, for the most part, it's you have to hold space for others. It's part of your duty as a man. That's the first part. Being emotionally available doesn't just mean, oh, he's this guy who's looking for something. No, it's somebody who is also holds space for you to be yourself, and to, and able to hold space for you to be as emotionally vulnerable as you want to be or can be. I think a lot of times we mistake, maybe we take it to the extreme of he or she is not emotionally available means that, it means they're just not looking for something serious, or they don't have, the ability to hold something for you. But I think it's a little bit more deeper than that, just a little bit, where sort of, where you have to be selfless in the sense, or be selfless enough to help someone else on their journey, but also make them feel like that they have a voice, they have a safe space in you, making you emotionally available as a man. And I think as well, just making somebody feel seen, making them feel heard, all right. Do I believe I'm enough in love without needing to earn it? Oh, okay. That's a deep one, but I think this is something that I've been reflecting on recently, actually. A lot of the time in my life, I would not always, but I would sometimes think that I'm not worth it, or I'm not enough for someone, or, or that quote unquote special person will never come, they'll never be there. But I've then learned in life that actually you're always enough and it sounds very like cringy, cliche to say, but really, there's always somebody out there that will appreciate you for who you are. Whether or not you know it, whether or not you see it, whether or not you feel it, it's going to happen. But I always think that the right person will make you feel enough. You don't need to earn it. Somebody out there will make you feel like you are worth every single, you're worth everything. And I always think that quote unquote earning it means that you're with the wrong person, at least for me. Because the wrong person will never make you feel that you are anything less than that. I'm not going to say they'll take you blindly. No, obviously not. But they will work with your imperfections. They will work with things that maybe they don't like about you, but they live with them. And obviously you do the same, vice versa. And I think that's sort of the beauty about relationships, right? Is that, and also part of being in a relationship is that you kind of work on things together. Like maybe there's something that you don't like, but about them, and there are things that they don't like about you. So you need to work on those together. You need to find a way of, okay, hey, how do we sort of overcome this? How do we find, a way through, right? How do I accept things that I don't like about you, and how do you accept things that that you don't like about me? And how can we get through this together? How can we sort of, find a way through? Because I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, to be honest. It takes a lot of sacrifice, but it tells you a lot about a person when they do that. I think it takes a very special person to come up to you and tell you, hey, there are things I don't like about you, but you know what? I'm gonna stick through them with you because I really like you, or I really care about you. Those people are rare. So ChatGPT, I don't agree. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to earn being enough. I always think that the right person will make you feel like you're enough, even though you might not feel like it, or even though others might not see you as enough for them. All right. What kind of relationships do I want to model for others? I definitely think one that's... Okay, if we're going to talk very physical acts or maybe day-to-day life, I think one that's very whimsical, very like free-spirited, childlike energy. I think... I always say this on this podcast, but my favorite show is Modern Family, and if ever you look at Phil Dunphy and Claire, I think that's the perfect scenario or relationship, or Chandler and Monica. I think just the way that they are with each other, there's a lot of playtime, but there's also time for serious talk. There's a lot of mutual respect. It's those kind of relationships where you sort of know that holding space for somebody else is super important, but also being yourself is as important. Being your true self without having to care or worry about, what will X think, and just being 100% yourself, man, really. I think one that's built off of, I win, you win. We're like a power couple. We climb mountains together, literally and metaphorically. Just one where it's not a business. It's not it's more of a team. It's more of a, we do things for one another because we love each other, because we care about each other. And I think that's the most important thing, is for it to feel like it's a bond, it's a unit, it's an unbreakable force that nobody can come in and replace. It's a kind of relationship where you feel like this person is the only person who I want to be with, for a lot of reasons, but I think mostly because you've held enough space for one another to let yourselves be exactly how you want to be. So I think that's sort of, the kind of relationships that I would want to model for other people. I think just being good people, I mean, this is just me in general, but I always like to be a good person. Being however, way I like to, however way I like to see the world. I like to see it in a much more positive way than it is now. So I think having that partner who will walk side by side with you and obviously emulate or show you that side, I think that's definitely a really good place to be, in my opinion. All right, there was one question that caught my mind. All right, so what has depression taught me about myself in relationships that I would never have learned otherwise? I think the one thing that depression taught me is that in hindsight, is that you're never alone. You always think that you're going through this life alone, that you're on this journey alone, that it's just you. But I think that, finding that right partner will never show you that you are alone. You'll always feel like there is something out there in this world for you. But what it's also taught me is that, again, looking back, is that sometimes the simplest way out of depression in a relationship is just to speak, or out of depression in general. And something that I've learned through relationships is to speak as well. Because a lot of times as men, we think that, I don't need to speak, I'll bottle things up, but that did no one any good, I think. So I think, yeah, just finding that right person, finding that, that person who will make you know that, yeah, you might be going through something now, but we're in this together. You're not alone. You don't, this world isn't all against you per se, right? You're low energy or low mood. You need to find somebody who will help you pick up. And then, when they feel low, when they feel down, you will obviously do the same. And it's kind of that team-like spirit that I was talking about earlier, which is, I win, you win. I pull you up, you pull me up. There are days where I might give 10% and they might give 90, and I might give 95 and they might give 5%. That's part of being in a relationship, but that's also part of coming out of depression, right? So for me, sort of living those days where I felt at complete zero everything. I think now looking back, having somebody to talk to, somebody to go through it with is incredibly powerful, honestly. And if you're not in a relationship, and this isn't maybe entirely exclusive to relationships, but even if you're not, I will say this on this podcast, always find that one friend, always find that one person who you find comfort in, whether it's your buddy at work, if it's your friend from high school, or whatever it may be, whoever it may be. Always find that one person who's going to help you take that little step forward today. Because consistency, or acts of consistency, build long-term habits. And I think that's also how it is in a relationship as well. When you're with that someone, they will sort of remind you what it's like to not be in this state, and to slowly help you build back up, and get back to yourself. If you're a father today, would your younger self look up to you or feel let down by your younger self? Wow. I'm not a father, but let's assume that I am. I think he'd definitely look up. I did actually a post about this not long ago, but I think the journey that me and my younger self went through was incredibly long, challenging. At times felt that it would never end, but we made it. And I think as a hopefully one day father, I would want my son to go through sort of a journey that's as challenging, to sort of help them see how life is not always negative, how life is very temporary, in the sense of your struggles, your anxieties, they're all limited within this space of time that you don't know when it will end, but it will end. For them to learn the value of consistency, of persistence, of nothing is stronger than me. I will make out of this alive, or I will come out of this alive. I always think that, this is one of the most important lessons I've ever learned, which is resistance and resilience. Resistance to the thoughts that I thought owned me. Resistance to the thoughts that I thought were everything. This was the truth. This was the be-all, end-all of life. But actually, it was the complete opposite of that. I also think that, just pushing against whatever it is that you're going through in life. Just going for it, trusting yourself, and honestly, something that I talk about a little bit as well in this podcast is the value of religion, and just trusting God's plan all the time, because there is a plan. Your life cannot be bad from day one to day it's over. I don't think that's possible. So I think it's just sort of believing in that, and it's sort of to instill that belief within yourself that things will be over soon. And then there was one really good question that it asked me. All right. So how can I slow down without feeling like I'm falling behind in relationships? I think this is a very important thing, by the way. So I think a lot of times, you get to a point in a relationship, or even, I mean, it could be with yourself or with someone else, but where you feel like, okay, things are going a bit too quick, so I need to slow down. But then at the same time, it's like you look around, it's like everyone's life is moving on, but I'm sort of falling behind, if you will. But the thing is, like, at the end of the day, I always say it, at least to me and myself, everything in life is happening for a reason. There's a reason why you're slowing down. There's a reason why you went 200 miles an hour and then went back down to 60. There's a reason. There's a calling. There's an internal alarm system, if you want to say it like that, where life will happen for you eventually, right? And I always think that, the act of slowing down is more often than not a good thing, even though in the moment it doesn't look like it's good, but to me it's always good. But just because, like, you need some time to refocus, to recalibrate, to really feel like, okay, let's take things a little bit slower. Let's get out of this in a better position than I thought I could when I was going 100 miles an hour. And there's so many different moments where I've had this, whether it be relationships I've been in or my life recently, where I felt like, okay, I need to take a step back a little bit. Things are going way too quickly. I'm hurting myself. And I think that's sort of the most important thing. And just honestly remembering that again, whatever lives people are living outside is not your life to live. I always say it before every race I ever get into. I'm not looking at other people. I'm not racing their race. I'm racing my own race. So if somebody's finishing a race in an incredible time, go like, oh, I need to beat that. But then I say, no, hold on. That's their race. That's not your race. And I don't mean it in a very like they're better than you. No. You have your own limits. You have your own capabilities. Beat those first. See what you can do with what you have, and then push from there. You might surprise yourself, and you might not. But when you surprise yourself, you'll be like, okay, so it was good that I didn't push for a little bit more, because actually something could have happened or something could have went wrong along the way. And in relationships, it's the exact same thing. When you feel like you're going at 100 miles an hour with this one person, you go like, okay, hold on. It's all really great, but it's too quick. I think that's always a sign to step back. Not step back as in like distance, no, as in just put the brakes a little bit. Take your time with it. Do what you think is right for yourself. And of course, aligning it with that other person. But, and just again, remembering that not everything that other people are going through is meant to be happening for you at the same time, at the same speed, at the same level. It just doesn't work that way, at least I think. So last question that I have here is, what does inner peace mean to me, and how do I feel close to it in a relationship? So I think, look, inner peace is always this thing where you feel like you're, at least to me, it feels like you're very much in a state of calm, in a state of, okay, this feels good. I'm content with this, and it just feels like your whole world within you is just calm. It's at ease. It's at peace. There's no fluctuating anxieties or whatever it is. No, it's more of, okay, things are good. I'm happy. I'm sane. I'm doing things at my own pace. I'm doing things at my own time. I'm not rushing. So that's sort of what it means to me. And how do I feel close to it? I think it's just, honestly, always remembering that, as I said before, everything that will happen when it's meant to happen. And it's just sort of letting go of the expectations that things should be a certain way or things should go a certain way, because that, I don't think, does anyone any good, to be honest. And I think as well, just remembering that we can all achieve inner peace if we want to achieve it, right? It's very easy for me to come out and say this, but it's so easy. It's either by finding, you can do it in a relationship either by actually being with the right person. I think that's a good place to start. I think the second thing is to always be very honest, is to be very vocal and, honest about what you think. Because I think that the more you do it, and I've had these experiences where, the less you do this open, honest conversations, the more your anxiety starts to eat you up alive as you're living through this journey with this person. And that doesn't help. And it sort of makes things a million times harder because you just decided not to talk, right? It's not a bad place to be not talking, at the start, because maybe, it's the beginning of a relationship. Okay, I can understand that. But that doesn't mean you do that for the whole thing. I think that just means you're living in an inner chaos world, personally. If it works for you, works for you, but it hasn't worked for me. So yeah. That's sort of, the big questions that I had from ChatGPT. And honestly, I really enjoyed answering them. A lot of them took me by surprise. I didn't think that I would sort of ever, get into this, state of extreme honesty, especially on a solo episode after so long. But it always has a way to prompt me to just, say whatever it is that's on my mind and be completely honest and open. But anyways, I would really love to hear what you guys think about this episode. Any sort of suggestions on what you guys would like me to talk about next, more than happy to do that. And do share your comments about what you thought about the response as well. I'm really curious to hear that and to see what everyone thinks, because I always think that everyone thinks in very different ways. So we should all sort of learn from one another. Anyways, thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.